listening.
Hello, everybody. I am Roger B., and you're listening to Locked and Loaded on America's Web Radio. Today, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. All you gun guys are sitting there gearing up, locking and loading, preparing for who knows what. We're in times we have never seen before. People in the United States under a lockdown countrywide. This is unprecedented in our history as far as I know, except for maybe during World War II when they had some blackouts and air raids, but it was never for more than a day or two at a time, maybe an evening at a time.
Yeah, I don't even think they even shut it all down now to what they're...
Right, compared to what we've got now. I mean, every city, every town, every state is pushing for all-time lockdown. Everybody's supposed to remain shelter in place. You would think fires falling from the sky.
Well, they want you to, I mean, at some point, Roger, when do we get to where we have to shelter in place because there was a mass shooting, and now you must shelter in place. We must shut down until we come and collect your guns.
Right. Well, you know, that's funny because I had a story here about the New Orleans mayor. He wanted to issue an order permitting a gun sale ban. He wanted to ban gun sales in New Orleans. Now, they did this during Katrina and they actually went around and collected guns. And they took these guns away without giving anybody receipts for them, without writing down who they belonged to. It was up to you to prove you owned it afterwards if you could even find out where they took it.
Right.
They're basically stealing property from people, giving them no recourse at all. And I just wonder how far would the sheriffs have gone to take guns away from people at that point?
Well, luckily, the Constitution stepped in and stopped that.
Right, they did. But I just wonder if somebody had stepped up and said, no, I'm not giving them to you, would there have been violence? Would the sheriffs have tried to shoot somebody for not giving up weapons, for not giving up their Second Amendment rights? Would it have happened? I don't know. I mean, it didn't come to that, thank goodness. But if it had, I just wonder. And now New Jersey tried to shut down all the gun stores. Yep. The New Orleans mayor is going to issue an order to try and stop gun sales. These people think because all this other power to keep people in their homes or to try and regulate things because of the virus is coming, they want to just, all the liberals want to grab onto the gun limitations as well and throw it in there too.
We've said it before and I'll say it again. If you give the government an inch, they're going to take a mile.
That's right. And they'll never give it back.
They're never going to give it back. Folks, there are freedoms now that we're going to have to fight to get back after this Wuhan virus because government will never ever give back all the freedoms that they take. We have history to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like taxes. I mean, they started the income taxes. 1% was going to be the maximum amount you would ever pay in income tax.
And what did they say? This isn't for you. It's just for that rich guy over there.
Very rich people. And now everybody who makes more than $30,000 a year is paying income tax of up to 40%. Mm-hmm. So don't believe them when they tell you, oh, everything will get back to normal soon. It's going to be difficult to put things back in order once they fall into this much chaos. Mm-hmm. And banning guns is one of the first things any socialist, communist, restrictive government is going to do, period. It's in every playbook of every dictator, every socialist, communist leader ever.
Just look at your Democrats and the municipalities and on the federal level. What does gun ownership have to do with a coronavirus, Wuhan virus outbreak? How is confiscating one gun or stopping a gun sale going to save one life?
Right, exactly. And the funny thing is, now I can understand them shutting down certain government offices.
All of them?
Like the ones that process permits. Okay, we have a comment.
I've got one for you. Do either of you or either of you, have you heard, only because we had a death in the family do I know this, but did you know that national cemeteries are closed?
Yeah,
we can't even bury my brother-in-law and have a
service?
Graveside service.
Wow.
Well, it's like they're closing a lot of national parks and state parks also. Anywhere where people can congregate, they're trying to shut down.
you should at least be able to do that with. Let's see, what's the guideline? 10 people or less.
Yeah,
You should be able to do
the
that.
The only thing that can show
What are they gonna
up
do?
is the hearse with the body. The hearse, the funeral home turns the
Wow.
casket and whatever over to the graveyard people. They take care of putting them in the hole, and that's it.
And that's it. So there's no
And,
family can be there or anything like that.
No family can be there. Nothing.
Yeah.
You can't even drive through a national
Wow.
cemetery.
So
now.
no paying respects to people who are already there, even at
No.
this point. Well,
Not- now what they're going to do is send a map of where he is buried, and at some point,
you can have a
they can-
graveside service later on, I guess.
sort
Yeah.
of, if this is
Yeah.
ever over with.
Well, I'm seeing stories of people had weddings planned and stuff, out-of-state
Yeah.
weddings, and all these people made plans to come, and they have to cancel flights, cancel reservations for everything. And I hope they're getting their money back on all this kind of stuff, because this is it just gets out of hand with this stuff. It's getting
And
crazy.
you know, good point. I'll bring up one other thing. Some friends had scheduled several months ago, well before all of this broke out, a cruise.
Right.
And they, as soon as the first sneeze, they went to the cruise line and said, "We're canceling. We want our money back." Now, this is where the government should step in. The cruise line has had their many thousands for many months now, and we'll be glad to give you credit. And as soon as this is over with, we'll give you credit, and you can pick any one of our wherever you want to go with what you've already paid for. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. They've got the money. Give me my money back.
Well, it's like I just yesterday canceled a flight with Delta, and they were able to either reschedule my flight or reschedule a flight at a different time or place, or give me a credit for it. That's all they're willing to do at the time. They're not refunding any money right now. They're hoping you can just reschedule or redo it. Because, I guess, I don't know. I understand they don't want to give money back, because when you bought the ticket, I bought it under the terms of non-refundable. So I agreed to those terms when I bought it. That was on me. These people who bought the cruise tickets, if they didn't buy the trip insurance, then, they're agreeing to a non-refundable purchase. Granted, these are unusual circumstances, but still, contractually, they're not obligated to do that.
But at least the airlines are waiving all fees.
Right,
and,
they are.
And,
Change.
and change fees and everything. Because I've had several tickets on Delta I've had to get credit
Adjust.
for. So, I'm just looking for places to go now.
Well, let me read you some other facts real quick. The major cruise lines are asking for financial help from the U.S. government, right? Okay. Yet Disney cruises sail under the Bahamian flag, Celebrity cruises sail under the Maltese flag, Carnival cruises fly under the Panamanian flag, all so they can avoid U.S. taxes.
All right, then. None of them should get a bailout.
But they refuse to pay taxes to the United States.
I'll say it. Now, look, I do not blame them at all for trying to shelter themselves from the oppressive, ridiculous taxes of the United States, because we as a free country, as you've heard me say, should get rid of we should go to a consumption tax, but that's a whole nother, that's my show. But, hey, if you don't want to fly under the United States flag, and you're not getting a bailout.
That's right. And of course, they don't honor U.S. rights either. I bet you can't bring a gun on a cruise ship.
I've been on a cruise, and no, they would not let me
That's
bring
right. I was like, if you're an American cruise line, you should allow that. I think they should have a cruise line that goes to the southern one of Africa, and you can shoot some other pirates. They don't have a cruise line to go on.
I have been looking for that cruise, Roger, for us to go on for a while, and that's a moneymaker there. So if a cruise company is listening to us right now, have a cruise that goes right on the coast of Somalia. But this cruise ship it allows me to choose a 50 cal or what is it? And let us have this piracy problem over there.
That's right. Let's bait them on with something and then get closer.
I bet David would go on that cruise.
I don't know a whole lot of people. None of my friends would probably miss a chance at a cruise like that.
I would. Man, I would even pay extra for the balcony room.
That's right. Get a little higher.
So I can get a little higher shot.
Pay more for a heavier caliber weapon. Get the upgrade.
I would. Oh man, and then we could do all. Imagine the fun we could have by making it look like we were a ship in distress.
That's it. You have to bait them in somehow.
This is a service, folks, that we are offering to do.
Yes, we will help organize. If a cruise line wants to step up and volunteer to offer this cruise, we will help organize it.
We will help.
Help provide suggestions on weapons, ammunition.
I am sure just between us and the people we know and your show, Roger,
And my 7 listeners, they will help.
I'm sure that we could fill at least one deck.
Oh my God, we probably fill the whole ship. And when this got out, this would be. People will be canceling African safaris to go hunt Somali pirates. Although I don't know how you would mount a Somali pirate. Would you put him on all fours? Would you just mount his head?
I have a question. So the liberals they hate big game hunting. They hate people that are going and controlling populations in Africa by shooting these animals. Are they going to be mad at us for taking out pirates?
I don't think so. They're violating international law. They need to be punished.
What a way to sight in your new scope.
That's right.
And what a way to lead.
Yeah, teach you how to lead on a target. What's that guy say in that movie, that Vietnam movie? How do you shoot women and children? He goes, it's easy. You just don't lead them quite so much.
Don't lead them quite as much. You know the skills that we could develop, because we don't have to just factor in wind speed. We're going to have to factor in the wave.
That's right. I mean, the Navy snipers got a chance to prove that they were out.
Yes, they did. They fired off the back of I cannot remember which ship. It was a carrier. I can't remember which one.
Now those are pretty stable, but still.
Okay, now I'm going to make a serious announcement. After listening to this, I wonder why we don't have a sponsor for this show. So if you're agreeing with all of this, then you're welcome to sponsor
That's
it.
right.
But send me out to GM at AmericasWebRadio.com.
And a check.
This Navy, that's right, and check. The Navy sniper, it wasn't just the carrier that he was, he was on the carrier that was a little more stable.
So
his target was going like, well, if you can't see me, folks, my hand's going up and down, up and down.
Yes, and they apparently told, they had actually supposedly had communication with the hostages, and they told them, stay low.
Yeah.
Because they weren't sure.
Stay low, really.
And apparently it worked.
And it worked.
I got a few, okay, this isn't gun related, but I'm going to read a few statistics here. These are worldwide deaths from January 1st to March 25th, basically 2020. There have been 21,300 deaths by coronavirus, 113,000 deaths by seasonal flu, 228,000 deaths by malaria, 314,000 traffic fatalities, and this is, and the lowest one on here is the coronavirus. I mean, alcohol has killed 582,000 people, and smoking has killed 1.1 million people. And yet the coronavirus seems to be this magical element that just...
I got one for you. Find out how many people in Chicago died this past weekend.
From what I understand, the shootings have been down.
Yeah. And there's still, though, I want to say it was 100 and something, but the point is, you look at, gosh, in Georgia, I think I'm not even going to put the number out there, but it wasn't that many deaths last night to the virus.
Right,
they had in Chicago.
Right, and even even the gun deaths are down there. But here it comes down to all these cities and stuff are wanting to limit gun sales or shut down gun stores as non-essential. But thank goodness Trump just last week, had said gun stores are essential businesses. They can remain open under U.S. law. They're considered essential business, nationally essential businesses.
Okay, it was the mayor in New Orleans, you said?
New Orleans,
I think somebody blew smoke in here and said all gun stores have toilet paper.
that might be true. I don't know.
That's right. We cannot deny nor confirm
that. What they're selling in the back room, yes. But in New Jersey, they went back and forth a couple of times. They finally got sued, but now the lawsuit's been dropped because Trump has come out and said, okay, the gun stores can stay open, they're essential. Because, I mean, to violate people's rights like that and not allow them to exercise a Second Amendment right is just ridiculous because of this.
They're starting to violate not just we're kind of used to them violating the Second Amendment, but now they're coming after the First, Third, Fourth, Fifth. Talk about the right to search, the right to privacy.
Right.
They're obliterating that right now, Roger, just by the way they're tracking cell phone users. The way they're starting
right.
To
in the UK, apparently they're tracking people.
They're doing it here.
Yeah, but they're not costing us anything yet. Okay, we're going to take a break for a few quick words. And if you're interested in being on one of these breaks and sponsoring our show, by all means, send us an email at gm@americaswebradio.com. We'll be right back.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan, and every family will save thousands of dollars a year. I'm Ellen Deal, and if you've been hurt by the Affordable Care Act, you can email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com to see if we can help. Small business owners, individuals, families, and baby boomers, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com for 3 easy questions to determine if you can get away from Obamacare. I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry and here to help you for all your insurance needs.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
I'm Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to us on America's Web Radio. And in case you didn't notice, my guest host today, here we go, Victor Omanzani, so Victor's hanging out today. Now, I got a question for everybody. Isn't it amazing how there have been 0 mass shootings, even though gun ammo sales have gone through the roof? Gun manufacturers, ammo manufacturers are being drained of stuff as fast as they can make it, and yet 0 mass shootings in the last few months. Doesn't that seem odd? It's almost like guns are not the problem.
So what you're saying is that all the lies that the Democrats put out, that more guns will equal more crime, or more guns equals more mass shootings.
The statistics are saying that's not true.
Well, the statistics have been saying that for years.
Maybe they're using statistics instead.
Yeah, I think you're right. Crazy.
But okay, here's another. This is Candace Owens. I don't know if you know who she is. She's a very intelligent young woman who comes up with all kinds of great, observations. If you die from heart disease right now and you're an asymptomatic carrier of COVID-19, post-mortem, they'll add you to the death toll of COVID-19. So if you've got it and recovered from it, and then you die some other way, you're considered a COVID-19 death.
So they're already padding the numbers. That's a great point, Roger, because that information came out the other day, where they're taking people who are dying of other causes, but then an autopsy shows that they had the virus, or they had traces of the virus, even
if they had recovered from it, or they were immune to it, or asymptomatic, they still were considered dead from COVID-19.
You can be immune to it, die another way, and they're put you on the numbers of. So they're padding the disease that we're supposed to shut everything down for. They're padding.
They want it to be more dramatic.
Yeah. So again, you've got to ask yourself, what is your government up to?
Right, and I wonder, because now they're doing things like telling you have to stay inside. If you're caught outside or you're congregating, you'll be arrested. But yet, in the same breath, they're saying we need to release all these felons from prison because there's a chance they could catch the virus because they're in very close quarters. So wait a minute, they're going to release all the criminals from prison and put law-abiding citizens in prison.
Yeah. That will make sense only in Washington.
Now let's push this back to the gun point for just a minute. So if they start releasing felons from prison, what does anybody think is going to happen to the crime rate? I'm going to assume it's going up.
Now you want some statistics. Yeah, just wait and see when the criminals.
You don't think they've been rehabilitated?
Well, some of it depends on what they're in there for. There are some that probably need, like, if they're in prison for a marijuana charge in a state that has legal marijuana, they probably need to be let out because their crime is no longer valid.
Yeah, but they're not talking about just those. They want to let out some hard-time criminals.
I gotta find that. Hold on, I have that story.
You want to see, you want to cause crime to go up, that statistic, then keep letting them out. But also, Roger, they want them out in time to vote.
Yeah, there was talk of giving felons the right to vote, which I thought was just
asinine.
Ridiculous.
Say it. It's crazy.
Now here in our home,
Biden needs all the help
he can get.
Now here in our home state of Georgia, though, there has been some good news. There's been a lawmaker that wants to suspend carry permit requirements.
All right.
So basically, he's saying because we can't process all the carry permits quickly enough and a lot more people are applying, we're just going to suspend it temporarily so anybody who's a law-abiding citizen who can purchase a weapon can carry a gun without having a permit.
So Georgia becomes a right to carry state.
A constitutional carry state, yes.
Right to carry
Possibly.
state.
Now,
which is what we
but
should
that's
be.
still with the background check by buying the gun, right?
Right.
Oh, right. You still have to have all the checks, yeah.
None of the federal checks will be pushed out of the way. The only thing, there are states now that have what they call constitutional carry. And Georgia's considering that as a possibility. They're trying to maybe push this through. And this is one thing good. They're using the Wuhan virus as an excuse to push through constitutional carry.
Which they should, because we got to push back against the politicians trying to take freedoms away by getting more freedoms where we can, I guess. And this is one way. But this is something that should be done anyway. I mean, if you're a gun owner and you haven't gone through the government ups and downs and jumping up and down and standing on one leg to get your carry permit, but now you're being told, well, the police aren't going to be able to come help you because they don't want to come into your home and get the virus.
And they're going to release all these felons.
And they're going to release the felons. Then you ought to be able to carry your weapon.
And it's funny how these liberals who are big anti-gun people. It was funny. There was a cartoon. It shows the lady. I need to buy a gun. He goes, okay, you'll have to fill out this form, wait the waiting period, and come back in 10 days and get it. She goes, but I need it now. He goes, do you believe in gun control? She goes, oh yes. He goes, well, this is gun control.
This is gun control.
People don't realize these laws. All of a sudden, when they apply to them, they don't realize how strict things are.
Yeah. Well, we've had media people who left this little pajama boy wearing. All right, I'm going to be nice. But we've had media people,
the gun grabbers,
We've had them go into a gun show with their little cameras on, hidden cameras, to try and buy a weapon and walk out.
Yep.
And then none of them have been able to do it.
Not without the proper
background
identification.
But most of these these journalists don't have a gun permit, so they have they have to do the waiting period.
Oh yeah, I want to buy an AR-14 with 30 ghost clipazines.
My name is Joe Biden, and I'm here to buy an AR-14.
And I'd like to use the gun show loophole, please.
Yeah, and I want to use the loophole. And I'm I'm going to need my 500 round
clipazine. Ghost clipazine.
Come on. And then when you call them out, come on, man, I need my gun.
Yeah, well, they're realizing that, gun laws do work. They're seeing that now. All these people having to wait.
Everyone that we have on the book works.
That's right, if they enforce them.
When they're enforced.
Now, here's an interesting story. There was an inmate who was released due to the coronavirus fear, and then he was arrested for murder. So, how do you justify this kind of thing? Now, I don't know what he was in jail for. I just found this story before I walked in here.
So we're afraid of a criminal getting the virus. We let him out, and he goes and kills an innocent
bystander. He was in jail because he was sentenced to possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He was he's stabbing and killing a 60-year-old man in a subdivision. There you go.
So the law did its job because he violated the existing gun law by being a felon and having
then they
one.
released him due
and
to
then
the
they released him because they didn't want this. Apparently, look, Roger, they care more today about the criminal and the non-citizen they do about an innocent law-abiding citizen.
Less about the victim than they do about the criminal. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's up to us, as always, to be your own first responder. Now more than ever, you have to provide protection for your family, your friends, your loved ones. You have to provide that protection because the police are stretched too thin. In fact, in New Jersey, they had over 600 police officers tested positive for coronavirus. So that's 600 less police officers on the streets in New Jersey right now.
And it's worse in New York.
Yeah, exactly. More and more, because these police officers are on the front lines. They're dealing with people every day. That's kind of their job. They can't avoid contact. Right. And as they get sick or as they come down with symptoms, they're not going to be allowed to interact with the public, which means less and less law enforcement, which means more and more responsibility will fall on you.
Well, my thinking is that the gentleman criminal, they'll just back off and wait until everybody's back to normal, and they won't pull any of these scams like the Department of Justice asked us to make an announcements about all the coronavirus scams that the wonderful people that the criminals and they got to make a living too, so they're taking advantage of the elderly by calling them up and saying, if you'll give me your Social Security number, I'll get your check to you by tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's John.
know,
Yeah,
whatever.
don't believe any phone call that you get that wants anything to do with Social Security number.
Or
The IRS
anything
already
else.
has it. Yeah, so if they need it, they already have it, and they will send you paper mail before anything else.
Don't buy it. Don't believe a telephone call, and don't believe an email call or an email from whoever. If you don't know them, dump it, and don't. They'll ruin you. So be aware. The Department of Justice contacted us after we had one of their attorneys on and said, "Will you please put out announcements about the coronavirus scam?" So that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes,
The
and
Wuhan
for
scam.
those of you gun control people out there, if you're afraid of these guns, if you have any guns in your possession, you can mail them directly to us.
Yes, directly here to America.
By way of our FFL license, and we will transfer all these weapons into secure hands where they will be taken care of and loved for the rest of their lives.
Mine.
But now, we have to get serious for a minute. The government's passing out $1,200 checks to a lot of people. So this $1,200, I need to know, I want to hear from people, what kind of gun or what kind of ammo are you going to buy with your $1,200 check?
I'm going to buy some 40, some 380,
And a shotgun?
and a shotgun.
KSG, baby?
Maybe a KSG.
That's right. Everybody's going to want to. I mean, that's like they're going to send you this $1,200 check, and if you're still working, you're going to go, you know what? Let's get going to the gun store because they're essential businesses, and I got essential money to spend.
I'm going to help them.
By all means, stock up on ammo. A few extra magazines would not hurt anybody, I don't think.
No, they
No matter what, and-
only a criminal.
You know,
Sta-
I'd like to throw out another thing here that, on a serious note.
We just did a serious note.
Now, a second one.
No,
Is that going to be G, F, or C? No, go ahead.
yeah, a good G string, good G string. No, it's you know, I've got two friends sitting here, and at the table we all carry, and we all have license to carry, and we all have been trained to carry. But that's not necessarily true for your neighbor and for the person across the street. Now, I happen to be very fortunate in where I live. There is a gun broker across the street, and he and I are
Ooh.
fairly, you know, we're acquaintances. We're not going out to eat every night by any means.
You're not supposed to go out there. You're supposed to stay home. And eat.
Well, he has a very good, clear shot of my front door, and I have the ring system and all of this kind of stuff. And he and I have agreed that, and I have a very good shot at his front door. And if he or I, either one, are having trouble with anything, and no matter what the hour is at night, and one of your favorite things when you need the police in seconds,
They're
so he and I are taking care of that, and take care of your neighbor. And we've talked to other neighbors in the neighborhood that you know, some of them have dogs, some of them have weapons, some of them don't. But you know, one, I have a hell of an alarm system, and
That helps.
two, I have you know, and I have my signs posted.
That's right. Your sign should say, "The door is not locked to protect me from you."
That's right.
It's locked. You
But
from me.
anyway, do, you know, converse with your neighbors 6 feet apart, but
That's right to your neighbor. You
Maybe
know,
that's social distancing.
Yeah, and help a neighbor if you're out there and unbuy some of that toilet paper you're hoarding and give it to a neighbor.
Trade it for ammo.
Or trade it for ammo.
or recycle.
But I've always said, if you're a first-time gun buyer and you never bought one before, and these times have got you scared, and you go out and you buy something, and even if you have some experience but it's limited, ask somebody. You gotta have some friend somewhere that knows something about this. If not, if you go to the range, which a lot of ranges are gun stores, so they will be open. Granted, they'll have to talk to you from a distance, but ask for advice, ask for help. Most gun stores and people in gun ranges are more than willing to help and assist.
I recommend a guy by the name of Harold.
Harold Lanier,
And the name of his
Creedmoor Training Academy.
You mean he can get away from his lake?
Yeah, right. From Lake Lanier. This is a different Harold Lanier. But
yeah, there are lots of people all over the country who offer training.
Yep.
By all means, it's probably the second most important thing you need after a gun and ammo. There would be the get the training, and then buy a holster. Don't buy a holster until you're going to go get some training.
That's the
Because
truth.
more people shoot themselves taking guns in and out of holsters without training than almost anything else. Even guys who are experienced. I've seen a guy shoot himself in his ass, putting his gun back in the holster by leaving his finger in the trigger.
What were you doing looking at that guy's bottom?
I was behind him getting ready to shoot next, and he ended up putting that
Ready to shoot him in the ass. If he didn't move,
put that gun back in his holster, had his finger on the trigger, popped a round off.
Oh, I bet
Hey,
he
there's
popped
a-
around.
Well, it didn't. He didn't know he had even been hit at first.
The one other thing that and I assume most of the instructors would go through this, and I always bring this up. Work on your head as well as taking your training on your pistol or rifle or whatever it happens to be. But work on your head and play the game what if.
Right, and you can do that. And you're not allowed to go out to eat anymore. But when you are allowed to go out to eat again, walk into a restaurant from where you're sitting, look for exits, look for anybody, look around the restaurant and say, okay, if something were to happen, who is going to run, who's going to scream, who's going to stand their ground?
Well, you should always have situational awareness in your mind. And, when we go out, Roger, and some of our friends, we usually have to fight over the gunfighter seat.
That's right. But if you don't get it, you go, okay, I got this side, you got that side.
That side, yeah.
You cover. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, once you build that mindset, you learn to use it everywhere you go.
And everybody out there who laughs at us when we talk about things like this and things we do when we go to restaurants, look, you probably don't even notice us doing it unless you're part of our group. But the very people that will laugh at us for doing this, Roger, are the very people that are going to get behind us going, see, I mean.
They're going to be the screamers.
Yes, they will be the screamers.
It's funny that we talk about it, but and I had to laugh at myself because I drove into a situation the other night that it wasn't a bad thing. I wasn't looking for trouble or anything else, but I caught myself looking in every crack and cranny of the parking lot, and getting a feel of what was there or what wasn't there. And
how much change did you find?
Pardon?
How much change did you find?
No, but it's just
it's
and once you get
situational
used
awareness.
to doing it, situational awareness, and it just makes sense to know what's going on around you, whether it's in a store.
And everyone should do this.
Everywhere.
Especially
Even you go into Kroger's or Costco or wherever you go, just know what's happening.
Pay attention. Now, of course, you're not. I've heard there are signs that say don't carry a gun in Costco. I've never actually seen one.
Me either.
Me neither. I haven't heard, but I've heard they're out there. But I've never seen one. But I mean, always. And the thing is, this is going to get bad when they release these criminals and the cops are spread too thin. They don't have enough of them. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be able to protect yourself if everything gets locked down? Are you going to be able to protect what you have for your family? What preparations you've already made? Are you going to be able to hold those for your family? Or are you just hoarding toilet paper for the guy who has the gun in the neighborhood?
Basically, yes. If you're not prepared to defend your home, then whatever you're hoarding in your home, you're just hoarding it for the guy with the gun.
Or, make sure the neighborhood knows. Make sure everybody knows. I don't want a gun, but I have toilet paper, so if you guys could help me, I'll share.
No, I think you go just the opposite way, Roger. And, there was a saying that during World War II that loose lips ships
sink ships.
So my thought here is if you do have a supply of food or toilet paper or ammo or whatever you got, keep it to yourself.
Keep a lid on it.
And if you don't, if you're real close with your gun broker across the street, well, that might be the exception. But
right, you have to build a community to be able to defend yourself.
My illegals that live next door to me, I don't think I'm going up to them and say anything. So
you may want to keep it on the down low.
Right.
The way I keep them in the house, I wear my ice jacket out. in the yard when I'm working in the yard. I have the big ice on the.
I'll teach you one word that if you want to clear, let me go. You want to clear the yard, your neighbor's yard, just walk outside, and point.
Would I do something like that?
Never.
I'm not going to say it. I was thinking about yard work, but I'm not going to say it.
I can feel the emails coming now.
But so as you see this happening, though, okay, in Baltimore, they have locked down Baltimore, and apparently there have been military vehicles and troops appearing on the streets. And now, of course, everyone's thinking, oh my God, this is martial law. They're locking us down. They're forcing us in. But apparently the citizens in there have a shelter-in-place order. Okay, so the city is locked down. Now, supposedly, what these National Guardsmen are doing, because they did respond to this, apparently someone noticed it and they tweeted it and Twittered it and Facebook
Tweeted it, whatever.
my twit face, whatever.
All the twits tweeted. Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, wait.
but they say if you see a National Guard Humvee on the street, no, we are helping someone in need. Whether it's delivering supplies, setting up tents for health screening stations, we are working for you. So they're not there, apparently, to implement martial law yet.
No, wait a second.
Yeah.
Let me explain something to you. And General Dix and I talked about this, and I can't remember, and even though I was in the Guard and all this, but if a governor calls up the Guard and they're on the street and they're in uniform, they have to be dressed as combat ready. So they will be carrying a weapon, an
I would hope
M16
so,
probably.
yeah.
And
They have those in the airports anyway. You go to an airport,
but
the
I'm
soldiers
just
have
saying,
M16s.
neighbors or people seeing
Well,
the
you're-
National Guard walking in their neighborhood
You're-
in full military gear.
Your Democrat is going to lose their mind. People like us are going to go, hey, what's up?
Yeah, but still cautiously. Be
Can I have-
cautiously optimistic. Because, I mean, the National Guard's there, but they have the ability to perform other orders as well.
Oh yeah, and and you just don't want some jerk to try to test the Guard.
No.
And they'll
You
come
don't
It's
out.
not like those guards in front of the palace in England.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
people try and test those, and they take it in stride. Here,
Yeah.
you
Don't-
get rifle bullet to the face.
Don't be a stupid
when you
hippie.
hear fixed bayonets,
Hey,
you know you've gone too
Yeah.
far.
Don't be one of those dumb hippies to go up and try to spit on one of these guys.
Yeah, because they have those bayonets, and if they hold them out, that's about 6 feet.
Yep.
And if the tip of the bayonet turns red, you're too close.
But no,
I can
we're-
break your nose within 6 feet. Let me tell you.
we're kidding about this, but I would, and it's been a long time since
kidding.
I've been in, but I would venture to say we had a little bit of it. Well, we had more than a little bit of it. We trained fairly good on riot control and crowd control, because when I was in, it was the civil rights problem, and we didn't know if we would be called up or not called up or whatever. And at the same time, Vietnam was strong and going. But I would venture to say that these kids and men and women in the Guard have been trained, and you don't want to mess
Well,
with
most people in the Guard are from that state. These are their neighbors, their friends. I mean, everybody probably knows somebody who was in the Guard at some point or is in the Guard.
Yeah.
And these are people from that neighborhood normally. Each state has its own National Guard. So these are people who live in that state. So these are probably neighbors, friends, people who know other people there. So these are the people who, if told to do something they don't agree with, they'll most likely, hopefully, use their better judgment and decide, no, that's not a legal order I'm going to follow. These are my friends. These are my family. This is my neighborhood. I'm not going to go in there and do that.
I don't think. No, I think. Not to argue with you, but.
Oh, come on, argue with me.
If they're ordered to do something, there's going to be a reason that they're doing it.
Right.
And-
If they see it as a clear threat and as a clear good reasoning, yes.
And that's why you have the top brass. You have the General Dixes. You have the people in command that, know what's going on, and if they issue an order, then
You would hope that
well, you know,
But what if they issue
the top has the same thing
yeah.
that you're talking
Well, that's
about.
what I'm saying. You would hope that the
And,
top brass would be smart enough to look at the Mr. Politician
Well-
and go, "No, we're not going to go collect guns from houses."
you
and
know,
innocent
they're not.
people."
You know,
Yeah.
everybody thinks that this. Everybody only remembers the Ohio situation.
No, I'm thought. What about back to Nazi Germany? All those officers said, "Oh, we were just following orders."
Well, you know, I disagree with you as far as
we would-
they're not going to be out just popping rounds.
No, probably not. I would hope they would
I would
see
think,
if somehow they got an order that they thought was unconstitutional or illegal or not right. Hopefully, they would stop and not follow an order that they saw there was an issue with.
But I think the chances would be
Of them-
slim to none
Of them even getting that order,
even
yes.
getting the order.
Yes,
yeah.
I hope that's the case.
No, I think it would be the case because while the grunts are out in the field training to do what they do, the officers in their position, and it's interesting too. I can't address what happened at Kent State, but I can address what I know about when I was in, and they do have intel.
Oh, of course.
And they have intel infiltrating whatever the problem is. And it would, I feel very confident in the Guard being called up.
Right, but always hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yep.
You got to be prepared. I mean, you can't
Well,
assume
being-
everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah, but when you say that, you don't want to be in a position that you say, well, I'm armed, I'm going to shoot back, because that would just
Escalate the situation.
not gonna-
and
it's not
then
gonna
all
end
of a
well.
sudden you'd hear these
Tanks rolling down the street.
big
Yeah.
pieces of equipment coming towards you. You know,
Right.
it's like we had a situation in my hometown, and we had been put on alert that we might be called up for it, but we weren't, because our police chief, we had one young man killed another young man in high school, and
Ooh.
it thought it was going to break out into World War III. And our police department at the time had one hell of a canine corps, and they had the rumors that, you know, so and so civil rights guy was coming in and who was flying in and this and that and all this.
So they were trying to instigate trouble, is what somebody was trying to do.
Yeah, but you know, and they'd put out, come to Lubbock and raise hell, you know, and riot and
Don't let a good crisis
turn
go to waste.
turn over cars and all this kind of stuff. But our police chief was on the local welcoming committee, and he had a very strong. We had one hill in Lubbock, and that happened to be Avenue A, and it was, you know, at the peak of it, you could see everything for a long ways. And he had an APC that he had converted, and it had a 50 on it, and then he stationed at every travel point, train, bus, plane, one of the dogs. And when someone would step off the plane and the dog would bark, they would back up and get back on that plane. And
Right, but what if it, I mean, like say with the red flag laws or gun confiscation, they were talking about sheriffs not wanting to enforce these laws and state governors saying, we're going to call out the National Guard to take your word and we will enforce these laws. And these sheriffs are elected officials by the people in these towns and counties. And at that point, there's going to be a conflict between law enforcement and the National Guard.
yeah, I think, you know, no, I don't think there will be in that.
I hope it never comes to that.
In
but
that, well, let me finish what I'm saying. In that, if that were to even get close, Trump or whoever's president would put an end to it real quick by nationalizing them. And
you're
then,
assuming the president's going to do the right thing.
yeah, well, then the president will do the right thing. And
You think Hillary would do the right thing? Will Joe Biden do the right
President
thing?
would say, "Where am I?" You
Yeah.
know.
Where's the honey pop? I'm gonna go get corn pop.
Yeah, Corn Pop's going to take care of this.
But no,
He's a dangerous dude.
I don't think it would come to that. And at that point, I don't
let's
think
hope
you'd
not.
have to worry about a sergeant or a first lieutenant saying, "Oh, I'm going to stand up." No, the brass would step in and take care of.
Ideally, there have been issues between officers even where they couldn't agree on the way procedure was supposed to be implemented as well. There's a movie about that with Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman where they have conflicting ideas about following orders on a nuclear submarine during a time of crisis.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the one guy who did not want to fire the missiles was right and basically stopped World War III from starting because he disobeyed an order from a superior officer.
You know,
And granted, that's the exception and not the rule, but it can't happen.
that's called a
And it
novel.
was a movie.
No, it was based in fact, though. It was based on actual events that took place.
I just have a whole lot more confidence than,
90% of the time, 99% of the time, but that 1% of the time when things can get out of hand is when I'm saying there's that chance.
That Democrat that was threatening to use the National Guard against the sheriffs was back down real quick.
Yeah, he had, or because that was within his right,
Yeah.
though. He had that capability.
Right, but
Who was
even he
that?
backed. West Virginia? Virginia.
the governor.
It was either Virginia, yeah.
The governor of
governor?
Virginia. Yeah.
Well,
He threatened, but he
And
backed down real quick because the outcry of the citizen that said we're gun abiding Second Amendment people and we're gonna stand with the sheriff, and that the Democrat who would have loved to have used the National Guard backed down real quick, and I think
Yeah.
he backed down because even him as a Democrat who would have loved to abuse power saw that the optics weren't going to be. Democrats base everything on optics, so.
But
Yeah,
if the optics were different, if we had a different person in the White House, different control in the Congress or Senate, I mean, they may be able to control those a little better because we all know the media tends to side with one particular party more than the other.
Well, we have to be diligent no matter what. I mean, look at the rights that are being trampled on right now in the name of a crisis.
Pandemic, crisis. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
a
a
virus that hasn't killed nearly as many people as
as the regular
H1N1 or the regular flu. Yeah.
I just I don't want to leave people thinking that something like that. I'm not saying that impossible, but I have a lot of faith in the military, and I have a lot
me
of faith
too.
in officers.
Yes, and I have faith that as it comes down the line, if something comes down that's not right, it'll be stopped somewhere along the way by somebody saying, no, this is not right. We took an oath to support and uphold the Constitution. This violates that oath, and I'm going to stop it right here. Hopefully it'll be further up the line rather than further down the line.
Yeah.
Well, it's that's why there is a line.
Yeah.
And
That's
Yeah,
why
people cross lines all the time.
That's why there's a chain of command.
that's right, exactly.
But I'm saying,
And,
be aware, while there's new criminals coming back on the street, it's going to be
No,
your
yeah.
job more than ever to defend yourself, your family, and your friends.
Yeah.
And I think at that point that if either martial law or just the need of the armed military for the criminals that are released, then I have no problem with that at all if it's needed. But
Right.
I give the military a lot of credit, and a lot of because of the folks that I know and have been in, and the folks that are in that I know, and they're well trained.
Well, the military is pretty much the only government agency that should be given credit on a regular basis.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, it's like you said, hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Prepare for the worst.
And just it's a good idea to be prepared anyway. No matter, it's like everybody laughing and making fun of the preppers a number of years ago.
Yeah, look who's laughing now.
Yeah, look who's
Like sitting on this mountain full of toilet paper.
Who's laughing now?
That's right.
Wasn't there a song about that?
I think there's a song about that.
But yeah, I mean, but people need to be prepared, and and having guns and ammo is part of being prepared.
Sure.
And it's funny because these people who were basically gun grabbers yesterday, today are all of a sudden flocking to gun stores to buy stuff that they just the other day said nobody should have,
No one
nobody
should.
needed.
Hey, you know how elitist is, and Democrats. It's never until it affects them.
Right. All of a sudden,
And
less
now-
police on the streets, felons being released. All of a sudden, these people are going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to defend myself?
You know, one thing that should come out of this after we're done with this whole virus crisis, a whole lot of Democrats should get voted out of office. It might be wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, maybe.
No, we agree. The radio station totally agrees with that. And Pelosi should be the first to go.
First to go.
Yeah.
Oh, they said they have a new corona test now available. You don't have to leave your home.
Yeah.
Just collect a stool sample and send it to
Send it
Nancy
to
Pelosi,
Nancy Pelosi.
and Washington, D.C. for coronavirus testing. I cannot confirm whether that's true or not, but I just saw
We won't confirm nor
a
deny.
glimpsing article about that today.
And
So
I think on the outside of the box it says recyclable.
that's entirely, yes, compost material. There you go.
She'll just throw it with the rest of the PCs in San Francisco.
But apparently, like I say, there are military National Guard troops appearing on some streets in the U.S. However, as of now, they're claiming they're there to help people get things done, perform testing, getting supplies to people. They're filling in where some of these police or first responders are getting stretched too thin.
As long as the government doesn't knock on my door and go, "Hey, we're the government. We're here to help."
Yeah, we know how that works out. Ask any Native American how that worked out.
Yeah.
You know, what you're talking about, and I'm sure the guardsmen that are being called up, and guards women, but
Guards people?
guards people, yes. You know, this again goes a long way with what they've agreed to do, and you know, they agreed to put their lives on the line for their brothers, and that's exactly what they're doing with this. And if they're in New York, or no matter where they are, it doesn't matter. If they're going out as first responders of sorts, then you know, it's like the ones that were shot at in Louisiana. And
During Katrina, yeah.
Katrina, and you know, this is why I feel that everybody in Congress, everybody in government, should go through the military training and have had. You know, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. A bullet whizzing by. They don't have a clue.
Right. Well, they don't. Yeah, because they haven't had to.
They
Hillary
haven't.
would tell you that she knows.
And
Remember that story?
You know, I heard this. Now, this is actually, I actually heard this, that apparently Pelosi has been exposed to possible coronavirus by another lawmaker who tested positive for it.
oh, I'm sorry.
And now she's refusing to get tested.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking she's refusing because if she gets sick, she's going to blame Trump.
She's going to blame Trump.
It's all his fault.
Well,
of
somebody
course.
said that Trump was going to have the Schwab and see how far he could cram it.
Now, Trump was tested and came back negative, so he did take a test.
Swab by enema.
I didn't know it went up that far.
It depends on how big your swab is.
Oh, my. We've gone off the rails here.
Oh, anyways, go to Roger at AmericasWebRadio.com.
Back to being locked and loaded, which is just another way of being prepared, okay?
right.
Now, I know a lot of you are trying to buy ammo lately. If you look around, there are some deals to be had out there. There is some ammo still at reasonable
What
prices.
would you recommend in, say, a 9mm, or would you steel metal jack? Would you do the hollow point? Or
Oh,
what
hollow
would you
point, by
do?
all means.
Hollow
yes.
point all day long.
Especially against, let's call them soft targets.
Yeah.
Fat
You-
people that are breaking into your house?
You want it to stop in that soft target and not go
Not
through it.
over-penetrate.
Yeah, you don't want
I mean, granted, something is better than nothing.
Said the girl never. Oh, what?
Something is better than nothing.
Remind
but
me
if
to
you have
tell
a
you
choice.
all one of my ambulance stories when we get off the air
Uh-oh.
about that. You're talking about soft targets.
Oh,
my
no.
God.
Do I want to hear that?
Oh yeah, it was funny.
But yeah, it's funny because I think it was Colonel West was out looking for ammo and he saw the shelves were piled full of hollow points and self-defense ammo and all the full metal jacket was gone. And he's thinking to himself, what you need against soft targets is hollow point self-defense ammo,
He's thinking
not full metal
either
jacket.
everybody's going to the range for some reason and no one's worried about self-protection or
Well, they just bought the cheapest stuff they could find
cheapest stuff.
and are not concerned about carrying,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
ammo that will be the most effective job on
Right.
potential felons.
Felons.
So we're going to call them, or Somali pirates.
Or Somali pirates.
I'm surprised that
Folks, Somali pirates are terrorists, just so we can clarify. They're not going
terrorists do not deserve any special treatment other than
We're not talking about innocent Somalians playing pirates. We're talking about terrorists. Who
and
call
terrorists
themselves
deserve a red
pirates.
enema every time.
Didn't the SEALs that
Hey, high-powered enema.
took out a couple of them, didn't they give them preferential treatment?
Oh yes,
They let them live an extra 2 seconds?
They tried to let them live, and they really did.
hey, they tried.
They did.
They gave them a chance.
They
They said
gave
no.
them-
They shot them.
And they said no.
So everybody, be careful out there and be prepared. And don't be afraid to spend a little extra money on the hollow point ammunition if you need it, because if you need it, you're going to be glad you have it. So, and if you see National Guardsmen on the street, they're saying they're there to help. They are helping to fill in. And right now, there is no martial law declared anywhere in the United States as of now.
And I'd like to add one more thing. If you do see guardsmen or anybody, police or anybody patrolling your street, wave and say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Offer them a bottle of water. I do.
Well, no, you can't touch anything, though.
Oh, true. I'll put it down and offer them to
Give
put
them
down
an elbow bump.
an elbow bump. Yeah.
But as we're sort of making fun of some of this stuff, we live in the greatest country in the world, and we elect people to make decisions, and then we expect them to act, and then we need to abide by the decisions they make. And if we don't like those decisions, we vote them out.
We need to
And-
vote them out.
Well, how come they ended up with $25 million in extra salary for all congressmen and senators out of the coronavirus relief bill?
Yeah.
We expected them to do the right thing, and they did the right thing.
Because they wrote it.
$25 million to save some theater in New York and help keep some theater up and running. And as soon as they voted this bill in,
They fired.
the theater laid off all the musicians.
They furloughed everyone. So,
So-
those musicians can go get on
and we donated $5 million back to the DNC.
back to the DNC.
So they just they're
It,
sponsoring money.
Well, I've talked about it before. Money laundering, Democrat style.
Yeah, or politician style. I don't know if it's happened the other way. I don't know.
Mostly Democrat style. but
Okay.
It probably happens with some
Happens on
established
each on
Republicans, too.
everybody. That's why all these politicians get rich in office. What was it Mark Twain said? The only way to get rich as a politician is to be a crooked one.
To be a crooked one.
A lot of
So-
truth in that statement.
Biden,
Oh, yeah,
Sanders,
Mark Twain was a smart guy.
Pelosi. Well, I could go on and on.
Biden. Imagine if he was president during this time. Oh, my goodness.
Would be
What if he takes over in November or in January? Oh, my goodness. Corn Pop is going to be on the top of every most wanted list everywhere across the country.
Corn Pop's in trouble.
Corn Pop, if you're listening, hide.
Hide.
No, it's I think the one last takeaway is be prepared and honor your neighbor. Honor your neighbor in the grocery store too. If
Yeah, don't sneeze on them.
yeah, don't-
And don't hoard stuff that you don't
That you
need.
don't need.
exactly.
Yeah,
You know.
don't
Thank you.
hoard stuff
That's-
you don't need. And
'Cause I was buying some stuff the other day, and the guy goes, "You know, you can take 3 of those." I went, "I only need 1." It's like, I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay.
With that being said, we're going to put the plug in the jug, get our ammo
that
ready,
jug,
and
yeah.
I think I'm even going to take my shotgun from the office home.
sweet, it needs a good cleaning.
So with that, we're out of here. Thanks for listening, folks, and we'll be back
Next week.
Locked and Loaded will be back next week.
My name is Kyle Hayes, a motorsports student at Alfred State College. Every year, Alfred State students compete in the Great Race, which is a cross